Hello, everyone. Welcome to TCC 2021 virtual briefing session with SingPost. My name is Billy Law, representing Agorize and Enterprise Singapore as the moderator of this session. Today, it is our pleasure to have the SingPost team, Mr. Andy Chan, Mr. George Ong, and Mr. Wang Hu Wei from the Future of Post Program Management Office of SingPost to walk us through the ins and outs of the challenge statement, waiting for your solutions. So the rundown for today's session is fairly straightforward. For the first half of the 30-minute session, we'll start off with the team to present their challenge statement on a hardware solution that can automate the last mile delivery of postal items such as email, packets, parcels, etc. Then we weigh up to 20 kg in commercial buildings. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to submit your questions on the Q&A panel of this Zoom webinar. Please note that this session will also be recorded and then uploaded onto the challenge platform at tradeandconnectivity.innovation-challenge.sg for future viewing. So now, without further ado, over to you, Andy, George, and Hu Wei. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Let me share my screen.
Yes, all good.
Okay, thanks, Billy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's briefing. Okay, I'm Andy. I have my colleagues George and Hong Wai with me today. We are from the SingPost Future of Post Program Management Office. So what we do is we seek new technologies and solutions to enhance the current processes and create new processes for future of postal services, as well as looking at how we can transform the urban logistics in the future. In today's briefing, we'll be providing some background so that you have a better understanding of SingPost's history, some of our challenges that we are facing, our problem statements and requirements, and finally, our desired outcomes. Here's a little introduction of SingPost. We started as a postal outpost of the British Empire more than 160 years ago. Similar to postal services all around the world, SingPost plays an important community and social role. We provide, above all, a trusted and dependable service. Postal delivery used to be only about letters. It used to take weeks and postmen delivering on foot. We have since evolved to meet the demand challenges of the postal landscape. While many aspects of the postal landscape have changed over the years, our commitment to the national obligation as the designated public postal licensee will never change. We are constantly looking for better ways to deliver so that we can continue to provide a trusted and dependable service. Today, SingPost is pioneering and leading in e-commerce logistics, as well as providing innovative mail and logistics solutions in Singapore and around the world, with operations in 19 markets. Building on its trusted communications through domestic and international postal services, SingPost is taking the lead in end-to-end integrated and digital mail solutions. So let's touch on SingPost's challenge statements for TCC 2021. Currently, mails are delivered in bulk to the mail rooms of commercial buildings, where they'll be sorted and distributed manually to the different departments and locations in office buildings. There are also interdepartmental mails that are sent daily between the different departments of an organization. All these are done manually. So the main issue with this is that it's labor intensive, time consuming, and unproductive. Besides, some of these items have to be signed and received, and there may be wasted trips if the recipients are not at their work desk. As such, SingPost is looking for a hardware solution that can automate this last mile delivery of postal items, be it mails, packets, parcels, flats, etc. And they may weigh up to 20 kg in commercial buildings. Okay, this hardware solution can be an autonomous mobile robot or personal delivery device that deliver the mail to specific locations or work desks in the building. I'll now pass the mic over to my colleague, who will brief on the requirements, some of the nice-to-haves, as well as the desired outcomes for these problem statements. Okay, Hong Wai, please.
Thanks, Andy. On the next slide, I will go through some of the main requirements that we're looking for in this project. So as Andy mentioned, what we are looking for is something that can deliver from the mail room to specific locations. If you can think of each and every user desk as a possible address within the building itself. So the bulk mail gets delivered to the mail room. It can be on the first floor of the main building, and then it gets thereafter distributed to all these different floors and different locations. So not only bulk mail from the mail room itself, we are also thinking about mail from the inter-department aspect. So a user from, for example, the logistics department can send an article or document to his or her colleague in finance department, in another part of the building. So we are looking for this last step delivery, last mile, to be autonomous, unattended, and safe. Autonomous is for the next point, which is you have a control system that has its own sensors, cameras, LiDARs, and its ability to map and its own approach so as to avoid obstacles like furniture, chairs, and even users themselves. Okay, so it can be unattended, it can go about its own delivery. And the last point is on being safe as well. So we are talking about this robot moving around. It may or may not be visible. So we are thinking of like flashing lights and even reflective strips, things like that, to make sure that it is visible, at least in the beginning. And in the event of power outage or the robot has encounters some technical issues, it should be safe to move it around, disable the brakes so that it does not hinder fire escape, blocking the corridors, for example. The next point is that it must be able to return to its own self-charging docks. Why? Because it has to replenish its power. So we'll be able to make the next run. Okay. Security-wise, this being an important and confidential mail, so only designated people like the mail admin or the end users are able to access the content in this system itself. It can be from the use of some access cards or from access codes. Okay. We have load that we're thinking about is about 20 kilos altogether in the whole system. It can be in different compartments, or it can be all together. But back to the original point, which is security-wise, how do we separate them, and so that only designated people can access their own mail. Finally, since we are going to move around in the building itself, it should be able to handle a gradient about 15 degrees or so. Okay. The next section is on the nice to haves. This is where we are thinking more towards a bit more towards the future. And if we are going towards a commercial implementation, and what would others like to see in this system? So we are thinking that this robot should only doing intra-building delivery. It can also do inter-building delivery. So this can actually leave the building and move to the next building to deliver to another company within a small area, for example. So that involves some kind of a geospatial mapping, and it's good that the participants will think about implementations like the communication protocols that it has to be able to handle and transition between internal and external systems. So next, as you know, SingPost has a mobile app itself. So it would be great if you can integrate with our mobile app via an API. Yeah. So this system will likely generate a lot of data as well. So even fundamental items like its battery level, its current load capacity, its schedule for delivery, who is the next intended recipient, things like that. So if you can have a web application or mobile app to track this and access this, I think that would be great. Thinking even further, we might have more and more of these robots and systems coming online, and that's where we have the fleet management system. So yeah, we can look at all this to coordinate in a system whereby whenever we have more deliveries to be done, and there could be some of these systems that are freed up or low on capacity. We can know how to schedule this to better utilize the whole system as altogether. The last point is on the IMDA guidelines. So as I mentioned, we are thinking of longer term on commercial implementation. So there are, of course, some higher level IMDA guidelines that they have already started thinking of. This is shown here as a hyperlink that you can go in and download the document to see what are the considerations. This is not to mean that we want all this to be adhered to right from the beginning, but this is thinking of the greater picture so that we can take this into consideration. Okay, so this is what we are thinking the system and solution should be capable of. Now I'll hand over to my colleague George, who will brief on some of the possible use cases and what is our desired outcome, what it will look like.
Thanks, Hong Wai. Okay, so the desired outcome of this program is to develop an autonomous last mile delivery solution for optimizing and improving the delivery process with the adoption of AMR technology. In the overall delivery process, it has multiple important phases to be completed. For example, the designated operator will use the apps to select a destination for delivery. Once the details are entered and selected, the designated operator will load the item into AMR and lock the compartment. So thereafter, the AMR will perform the delivery and designated operator will be notified via the apps when it arrives. Last step is the operator will be notified to collect the items and they will be able to retrieve them using a QR code or OTP. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so we will now open the floor for questions.
All right. Let's see. So we actually have a couple of questions. Thank you so much, the team, for sharing with us. And let's see, we can see it. All right, so the first question that we have from Christopher, do you need the AMR to have all terrain capability? Andy or George or what?
Sorry.
So the question is, do you need the AMR to have all terrain capability?
Yes, definitely. We need to have a certain type of alterings or even the algorithm to have these for the robotic to be more advanced in terms of like last mile delivery, and also need to deploy within the commercial building or intra buildings applications.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Next question is, does it need to integrate with traffic lights?
Okay, I guess for a start, we need the robot to be able to move within a building. So eventually we are actually exploring to deploy the robot to between buildings as well. So when that happens, then it might have to integrate with the traffic lights. So for a start, for the first part of the trial, most likely will be within the building itself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the third question is there any access to the API or the sandbox version of it? I guess that's to the app, to the application.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the systems wise, right? We need to have a API for the external system to integrate or interface, right? With even for external device or even with SingPost applications, right? We need to have this API interface.
Okay, great. Good. And the fourth question, has SingPost experimented with any product in the past? If so, what were the biggest challenges you faced?
To take this, at the moment, we are still not having any solutions of this kind, or rather we have not tried something out yet. It's still pretty much a manual process, so which is why we are looking to start this challenge.
Great, thanks, Hu Wei. And another question from Chris. Does the AMR need to travel between floors?
Yes,
Yes, I think
eventually.
it's
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Howard?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yep. So I think for the beginning, when we're talking about proof of concept, it probably wouldn't need to go to that level yet. But eventually, that would be something that is desired because, as I mentioned in one of the main requirements, the mailroom itself could be on the bottom, let's say, first level. And if, let's say, I have this robot that is not able to travel between floors via lift, for example, that means I may need to have multiple robots per level. And even then, that will actually mean having some manual movement of this mail from the mailroom up to the different floors to the robot. And that kind of defeats the purpose. So the short answer is yes, desired, but not at least for the first phase.
Great, thank you. So I think these are all the open questions for now. For the attendees, if you have any questions, you can raise it up right now on the Q&A. And just for you guys to know, as shared on the screen right now, you can find the different dimensions of the mail on this link that is also available on the platform as well. Here we have a question here. Is the robot required to work during rainy days?
Rainy, yeah, I mean, I will take this question. So basically, the robots need to travel. Let's say there's applications or requirements that to travel with intra-building or within the buildings. So it depends on the environmental conditions. So even rainings or even high humid conditions, right? So the robot need to travel between building A to building B as well. Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you. All right. I think that's all the questions. Attendees, you have any other questions, or if the SingPost team, if you have anything else you would like to add on? Looks like we don't have any questions coming in. All right, so I am going to mark this as good. Okay, so actually, I think I have another question. Yes, so what is considered personal device? So anyone can take this question? Maybe if the attendee can elaborate on this question, what is considered personal device? Andy, George, Ruwai?
Yeah, I think I would take these questions. So basically, the personal delivery device, right? It means an electrically powered device that is operated on sidewalks or even a crosswalk, right? And is intended primarily to transport the items within the building or intra-buildings applications. Yeah.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. Okay. All right, I think we are good. So again, thank you very much, the SingPost team, Andy, George, and Huwai for taking the time today, and also for our attendees to join us here. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask on the TCC Challenge platform. And if you have yet to register, we sincerely invite you to do so now at tradeandconnectivity.innovation-challenge.sg. And I hope the session provided new insights and gave you better clarity on the challenges that SingPost is facing. And we're looking forward to seeing your submissions by December 30th of this year. Again, thank you all for joining us today. We're letting you guys know when the recording is ready, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Again, thank you, the SingPost team, Andy, George, and Hunwai. And this wraps up the session today. Thank you very much, all. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.